Eli Navarro had never seen the sky look so cruel. The stars twinkled quietly, unaware of the terror that was about to strike. It was a warm evening, and the streets of his small town were calm, too calm. He was playing in his backyard with a tiny wooden spaceship, pretending to be a hero saving the galaxy. The world felt normal, safe, filled with the laughter of children and the comforting smell of dinner cooking inside his house. Then the ground shook. It was no ordinary tremor. It felt alive, as if the planet itself screamed in warning. Eli froze, his toy falling from his hands. A shadow stretched across the town, dark and terrifying. He looked up and saw it, a massive alien ship taller than anything he had ever imagined. Its hull shimmered silver under the fading sun, cold and unwelcoming. The engines hummed with a sound that vibrated through every bone in his body. From the ship's belly a beam of blue light shot down. Within seconds, children were lifted into the air. Their screams cut through the evening like knives. Eli's heart stopped when he saw his little brother, Mateo, rise into the light. His mother, Rosa, shouted his name, reaching out, but the beam pulled her too. Eli ran, arms flailing, calling after them, but it was no use. They were gone, swallowed by the ship as if Earth had no right to its own children. Around him, chaos erupted. Neighbors ran, tried to fight or hide, but the ships were precise, unstoppable. Entire schools emptied in minutes. Playgrounds went silent, and the cities that had once hummed with life now felt hollow and broken. Eli dropped to his knees, chest heaving, tears streaming down his face. He couldn't understand why this was happening. Why were children being taken? Why had no one stopped it? But as his sobs shook him, something inside Eli changed. Anger mixed with grief, forming a fire he had never felt before. He refused to be powerless. He would not vanish quietly like the others. He would fight. Somehow. Some way. He ran to the forest behind his home, hiding behind thick trees and underbrush. The blue light still shimmered over the town, taking away everyone he loved. But Eli's fear turned into determination. He remembered the stories his grandfather had told him, of humans who stood against impossible odds, who faced giants and monsters without fear. Eli clenched his fists, imagining himself as one of those heroes. He had nothing but courage, and courage had to be enough. Night fell over the town, but Eli did not sleep. He sat beneath the trees, shivering in the cold air, staring at the dark sky above. Every star seemed to mock him, shining innocently while his family had been taken. Yet in that darkness he made a promise. "I will bring you back," he whispered to the wind. "My brother, my mother. I will save you." He did not know how. He did not know if he could survive. But Eli understood one truth clearly. If someone didn't fight, no one else would. The alien empire had expected fear, silence, and obedience. They had not expected resistance. They had not expected a human child. Somewhere deep inside the massive alien ship, lights pulsed like the heartbeat of a cold, metallic beast. Machines moved in patterns Eli could not comprehend. The aliens did not yet know that a small boy on Earth, trembling and scared, had begun to fight in his own way. He had no weapons, no allies, only his determination and his refusal to give up. Yet that alone made him dangerous. Eli sat in the forest long into the night, imagining a future where he would face the alien empire, where he would take back what was stolen. In the silence of the trees he planned, dreamed, and hoped. The world outside might have been broken, filled with despair and loss. But inside him burned a light brighter than the stars themselves. By the time dawn crept over the horizon, Eli was no longer just a scared child. He was a spark of defiance against impossible odds. A small human heart ready to challenge the might of an alien empire. Somewhere in the universe the stars would remember this night, not for the terror they had witnessed, but for the courage of one boy who refused to be taken. Eli woke before dawn, his small body stiff from sleeping under the cold forest trees. He rubbed his eyes and looked at the horizon. The sky was painted with pale pinks and oranges, but he didn't see beauty. He only saw the empty streets of his town, the places where laughter had once lived, now silent. Every memory of his friends, his brother Mateo and his mother Rosa, pushed him forward. Eli's fear was still there, curling like a shadow around his heart. But determination burned brighter. He would not wait. He remembered the alien ships. He remembered the way the children had floated upward, the blue light that tore them from the earth. Eli clenched his fists. If he wanted to save them, he had to understand the enemy. He had to see them up close. His mind raced with questions. How did the ships work? Could they be stopped? Did they have weak points? He had no answers, only courage and the hope that his small mind could find a way. He began by gathering whatever he could find in the forest. Broken branches became makeshift weapons. Rocks sharp and heavy could be thrown. He remembered seeing humans fight in old stories, and he mimicked them, practicing in silence, imagining the aliens as the monsters he must face. Every throw, every swing was a promise to the children. Every hit against a tree or a rock was a rehearsal for the day he would strike. Eli knew he could not do this alone. He needed information, and humans, even afraid humans, could help. He crept back into the town as the sun climbed, keeping low behind fences and fallen debris. The streets were eerie. Cars were abandoned, doors left open. No sounds of life echoed, only the occasional distant hum of alien engines. Eli's heart thumped with each step. He felt invisible, yet the weight of responsibility pressed heavier than any fear. In the remains of the town library, he found something that made his heart beat faster. Old books scattered on the floor filled with diagrams of rockets, physics experiments, and maps of the night sky. Eli pored over them, his small hands tracing star charts and engine diagrams, imagining ways the ships could be tracked, followed, or even tricked. Knowledge, he realized, might be his greatest weapon. The aliens had power, but humans had something they could not understand: ingenuity, courage, and the refusal to give up. Hours passed like minutes. Eli's stomach growled, but he ignored it. Hunger, he decided, was a small price to pay for the chance to fight. He marked stars and patterns on scraps of paper, memorizing constellations that might guide him to the ships. Every plan was simple because he was a child, but in simplicity lay clarity. His small mind, untangled by fear, saw possibilities adults might miss. Suddenly, a sound made him freeze. A small whimper came from behind a row of overturned shelves. Eli crept closer and found a girl, no older than him, hiding among books and dust. Her eyes were wide with terror, but when she saw him, relief flickered. I'm Lyra, she whispered, voice trembling. They took my brother, too. Eli nodded, understanding perfectly. I'm Eli. They took my family, but I'm going to save them. His voice shook, but there was a fire in it that even he could feel. Lyra's fear mixed with hope, and together they made a silent promise. Alone they were children, powerless against an alien empire. Together they could be more. Together they could survive. They scavenged supplies, bottles of water, scraps of metal, anything that might help. Eli shared his simple plan. Observe, learn, and wait for the right moment. He showed Lyra the maps of stars and ships he had marked, explaining how they might follow the patterns to find the aliens' path through Earth's orbit. Lyra listened wide-eyed, but she believed him. Belief, Eli realized, was the beginning of courage. Night fell again, and the forest called them back. They moved quietly, shadows among shadows, hearts beating in unison with the rhythm of defiance. Eli looked at Lyra and whispered, "Tomorrow we take our first real step. We will find them and we will fight." Lyra nodded, a spark of courage lighting her eyes. They had no weapons against the alien empire, no adults to guide them, no plan that could guarantee success, but they had each other. And sometimes that was enough to begin a revolution. As the stars emerged in the night sky, brighter than ever against the dark, Eli felt something powerful stir inside him. He was no longer just a frightened boy. He was a watcher, a planner, a spark of resistance. Somewhere beyond the sky, the alien empire continued its harvest, unaware that on one small blue planet, 2 children were already preparing to challenge them. And for the first time since the invasion began, Eli smiled, not because the world was safe, but because he had decided that he would not let it remain silent forever. Eli and Lyra moved through the forest like shadows, careful not to make a sound. Every crack of a branch beneath their feet made them freeze, hearts thudding in fear and anticipation. The night was quiet, but the silence was heavy, filled with the knowledge that the alien ships were still above, collecting children, taking them to places no human had ever returned from. Eli's mind raced. They had a plan, a simple one, but any mistake could mean capture, or worse. After hours of walking, they reached the edge of a hill that overlooked the valley where the town had once stood. The city lights were gone, replaced by the cold blue glow of the alien ships hovering like predators. Eli's stomach twisted at the sight. He swallowed hard, trying to push down the fear, reminding himself why they were here. The children had been taken, families ripped apart, and Eli could not stand by. He took Lyra's hand and squeezed it tightly. She looked at him, eyes wide, and nodded. They were in this together. Eli pointed to a ship that seemed different from the others. It pulsed with light, almost as if it were alive. "That one," he whispered. "That's where the children go first. We need to watch, learn, and remember everything." Lyra nodded again, shivering. The wind carried the faint hum of alien engines, a sound that made Eli's hair stand on end. But fear, he knew, could be a weapon if used right. It sharpened the senses, made them alert. Hours passed as they observed from the hill. Children were lifted one by one, floating into the ship's belly. Eli noted patterns, how the beams moved, how long it took, and where the ships hovered most often. He whispered instructions to Lyra, pointing out weaknesses they might exploit someday. She listened carefully, repeating the plans aloud to make sure she remembered. For a moment it almost felt like a game, but the stakes were painfully real. Every child lifted into the sky was someone's brother, sister, son, or daughter. And every moment they delayed, Eli felt the weight of failure pressing harder. Suddenly the ground beneath them trembled, not like before, but sharper, closer. Eli froze. The forest seemed to hold its breath. Lyra clutched his arm, eyes wide. And then they saw it. A patrol unit, alien machines on long, spindly legs moving through the trees, scanning for life. They were taller than a man, sleek and silver, with glowing eyes that searched for movement. Eli's heart nearly stopped. If the patrol saw them, there would be no escape. He pulled Lyra down, pressing her against the soil. They lay still, barely breathing as the machines passed within a few feet. The glow of their eyes swept across the ground, and Eli felt the cold brush of fear against his skin. He wanted to scream, to run, to fight, but he knew any sudden movement would mean death. Time stretched endlessly, each second heavier than the last. The patrol moved on, leaving only silence behind. Eli exhaled slowly, relief mixing with adrenaline. We have to be more careful," he whispered, voice trembling. Lyra nodded, tears glistening in her eyes. Eli felt a surge of protectiveness. He could not let her die here. He could not let the aliens win. "We survive," he said, his voice stronger now. "We watch, we learn, and we fight. But we survive first." She nodded, clinging to his hand, and for the first time Eli felt the weight of leadership. Being brave was one thing. Keeping someone else alive was another. As dawn approached, the first rays of sunlight pierced the dark sky. The alien ships retreated slightly, leaving the town in an uneasy calm. Eli and Lyra crept down the hill, moving cautiously through the trees. Every sound made them flinch, but every step was progress. They had survived the first danger, and the knowledge they gained tonight would be their weapon in the days to come. Finally, they reached a small clearing near the edge of the forest. Exhausted, they sank to the ground. Eli looked at Lyra, her face pale but determined. "We can do this," he said quietly. "We have to. Tomorrow we'll follow the ships closer. We'll learn more. And one day, we'll save them all." Lyra nodded, hope flickering in her eyes. For a brief moment, fear faded, replaced by courage. Eli knew the road ahead was impossible. The aliens were stronger, smarter, and more powerful than any human could imagine. But he also knew something they did not. A human heart, filled with loss and love, could burn brighter than any machine, resist more than any weapon, and fight harder than any army. That spark had awakened tonight, and the alien empire would soon learn that even a child, small and underestimated, could become a force they never expected. The morning mist clung to the trees as Eli and Lyra moved cautiously through the forest. Their plan was simple but terrifying. Get close to the ship that held the children, observe its movements, and find any weakness they could exploit. Eli's heart pounded with a mix of fear and determination. This was no longer just about watching or hiding. Today they would take the first step toward fighting back. The valley below was alive with alien activity. Ships hovered silently, beams of blue light darting down and lifting more children into the unknown. Eli counted them, careful not to lose track, and noted the patterns again. His small notebook was filled with sketches of the ships, diagrams of the beams, and the paths the children were taking. Every detail mattered. One mistake could cost their lives, or worse, the lives of the children they hoped to save. Eli, Lyra whispered, gripping his arm. Her voice trembled, but her eyes were fierce. How can we fight them? They're so big, so strong. They'll crush us. Eli looked at her and smiled faintly, trying to hide his own fear. We don't fight them head on, he said. Not yet. We watch, we learn, and then we strike in the right moment. We have to be smart, not just brave. They crept closer, moving along fallen logs and through thick underbrush. Every step brought them nearer to the ship. Every rustle of leaves made them freeze in silence. The alien patrols moved through the forest again, their glowing eyes sweeping the ground, but Eli's careful timing kept them hidden. He had learned patience tonight was more valuable than courage alone. Finally, they reached a small clearing that gave them a direct view of the ship's underbelly. Eli's stomach twisted at the sight of the children floating in the blue beams, their faces pale with fear. Among them, he recognized Mateo. His brother's eyes met Eli's for a fleeting second, and Eli felt a surge of anger and love that made his fists clench. He would save him. He would save them all. Eli pulled a small rock from his pocket, examining it carefully. It was their only weapon for now. He had noticed that the alien patrol seemed to react to sudden noises and disruptions. Perhaps a distraction could work. He whispered the plan to Lyra. She would draw the patrol's attention with a thrown rock, and Eli would slip closer, observing the machinery beneath the ship. Lyra nodded, fear in her eyes but trust in her heart. The moment came. Lyra hurled the rock into a pile of leaves. The patrols immediately turned, their glowing eyes scanning the forest. Eli held his breath and moved forward, slipping between the trees like a shadow. He reached a position beneath the ship and saw it, small openings near the beam emitters. They were not meant for humans, but they were there. A vulnerability. Eli traced the lines of the machinery, memorizing everything he could. Suddenly, one patrol unit turned sharply toward him. Eli froze, heart hammering. Lyra, seeing the danger, threw another rock, shouting to draw attention. The patrol shifted again, and Eli ducked, pressing himself into the shadows. Every second was a risk, but he could not stop. He could not let fear control him. When the patrol finally moved on, Eli exhaled, relief washing over him like a tide. He had seen enough. He knew now that the ship could be accessed, that the blue beams were vulnerable, and that with courage, cleverness, and precise timing, the children could be freed. Lyra came to him, her face pale but smiling faintly. We can do this, she whispered. Eli nodded, determination burning in his chest. We will. One step at a time, but we will. They retreated to the forest, hearts racing, minds spinning with possibilities. Today, they had survived patrols, observed weaknesses, and made a plan for the next move. The alien empire may have thought the children were helpless, but they had underestimated humans. And most of all, they had underestimated the resolve of one small boy willing to do whatever it took to fight back. That night, under the stars that had once seemed indifferent, Eli and Lyra sat in silence. The forest around them was calm, but their minds were alive with strategies. Eli held the notebook tightly to his chest. He knew the next step would be harder, more dangerous, but the spark had been lit. And sparks, once burning, could not easily be extinguished. "Tomorrow," Eli said softly, "we strike again, and next time, it won't just be observation. We'll show them that humans fight back, no matter the size, no matter the odds." Lyra nodded, hope shining in her eyes. Together they were ready to take the first real stand against the alien empire. Somewhere above the forest, the ships hummed, unaware that the game had already begun. On the ground, two small humans had started a rebellion that would grow far beyond their size. And in Eli's heart, the fire of resistance burned brighter than ever. The forest was silent, but Eli's heart beat like thunder in his chest. The night was darker than usual, the stars hidden behind thick clouds. Only the cold blue light from the alien ship lit the valley below. It shimmered faintly, casting long, eerie shadows through the trees. Lyra sat beside him, her knees drawn close, her face pale with fear and determination. "Are you sure about this?" she whispered. Her voice was barely a sound. Eli nodded slowly. "If we wait longer, they'll be gone. My brother, your brother, all of them." His eyes burned with exhaustion and anger. "We have to try. Even if we fail, we have to try." The plan was simple, yet dangerous beyond reason. They would sneak close to the alien ship again, closer than ever before, and try to pull one of the captured children out of the blue beam. Eli didn't know if it would work. He didn't know if they could even survive being that near to the ship's power. But doing nothing was no longer an option. Lyra's hands trembled as she checked their small supplies, some metal rods, rope, and an old tarp they had found in the ruins. It wasn't much, but it was something. Eli had also filled a bottle with water mixed with ash and soil, hoping it might block the alien sensors, just like how fog hides things from human eyes. It was a child's idea, but sometimes hope was smarter than logic. As they crept closer, the hum of the ship grew louder, vibrating in their bones. The ground glowed faintly with the ship's strange energy. Eli felt every instinct scream for him to run, but he didn't. He couldn't. He thought of Mateo, his little brother's smile, his laughter, the way he used to hold Eli's hand when he was scared. That memory gave him strength. They reached a point where the ship's beam touched the ground. The light was blinding and warm, almost alive. Inside it, faint outlines of children floated helplessly. Eli's eyes filled with tears. They looked like stars trapped in a cage. Among them, he spotted a small boy, too small to be Mateo, but human. "Alive. That's one of them," Eli whispered. "We can save him." Lyra hesitated. "How?" Eli looked at the beam carefully. It pulsed like a heartbeat, every few seconds dimming slightly. That was their chance. When the light flickered, they would run in, grab the child, and pull him out before the beam regained strength. It was insane, but it was the only idea they had. He took a deep breath, counting under his breath. 1, 2, 3, now. They dashed forward. The blue light flickered weakly as Eli jumped into it. His body tingled, every hair on his skin standing straight. The air crackled with strange energy. And for a moment he thought he would vanish too. But he pushed through, grabbed the boy's arm, and yanked with all his strength. Lyra pulled from behind, using the rope to drag them both out. The moment they fell back into the dirt, the beam flashed violently. A siren-like sound echoed through the forest. The patrols had noticed. "Run," Eli shouted. They sprinted into the forest, the small boy clutched tightly in Eli's arms. Behind them, the ground shook as alien machines dropped from the ship, their glowing eyes scanning for movement. Energy blasts tore through the trees, lighting the night with deadly flashes. Eli ducked, weaving through the trunks, his breath ragged. Lyra followed close, stumbling but refusing to stop. A blast hit a tree beside them, showering sparks and smoke. Eli shielded the boy with his body, rolling to the ground. The smell of burning wood filled the air. His ears rang, his heart pounded, but he forced himself up again. "Keep going!" he gasped. They ran until their legs gave out, until the sounds of the machines faded behind them. When they finally stopped far from the ship, Eli collapsed, his chest heaving. The rescued boy stirred weakly, his eyes fluttering open. "Where am I?" he whispered. "You're safe," Eli said softly, tears of relief filling his eyes. "You're safe now." Lyra knelt beside them, smiling faintly despite the exhaustion. "We did it," she said, her voice shaking. "We actually did it," Eli nodded, holding the boy close. For the first time since the invasion, they had won something. Small, fragile, but real. A single child had been saved. Hope had been reborn. But as he looked toward the horizon, where the alien ships still hovered like monsters in the sky, Eli knew the fight was far from over. The aliens would come searching. They would not forget this act of defiance. Still, Eli smiled through his tears. The aliens had taken Earth's children because they believed humans were weak. Tonight they had been proven wrong. A single boy with nothing but courage and love had struck his first blow against an empire that spanned the stars, and it was only the beginning. The morning sun rose slowly over the forest, painting the trees with soft gold. For the first time in many days, the world looked peaceful, but Eli knew that peace was only an illusion. The alien empire had been struck, and they would not ignore it. Last night, he and Lyra had done the impossible. They had pulled a child from the blue beam right from under the aliens' noses. It was a victory, but victories come with a price. Eli sat beside the small fire they had built in a hidden cave. The rescued boy, his name was Aaron, slept soundly, wrapped in a torn blanket. Lyra sat near the entrance, watching the forest through the mist. Her eyes were wide and alert. Every sound made her tense. She could feel what Eli already knew deep inside. Something was coming. "Do you think they'll find us?" Lyra whispered. Eli looked into the fire. "They'll try," he said quietly. "They have to. We embarrassed them, and they don't forgive that." He was right. High above Earth, in the cold halls of a massive alien command ship, the overseers of the Empire were furious. The recording showed two small human figures defying the beam, breaking the collection protocol. It had never happened before. To them, humanity was supposed to be weak, obedient, and afraid. But now, one act of defiance had shaken that belief. Eli didn't know how close they were being watched, but he could feel it in the air. The birds had stopped singing. The forest was too quiet. Even the wind felt strange, heavy, like it carried a warning. Suddenly, the silence broke. A low hum echoed through the valley, deep and mechanical. The ground trembled beneath their feet. Lyra turned to Eli, fear flashing in her eyes. "They're here," she whispered. Eli jumped to his feet, grabbing Aaron and motioning for silence. The hum grew louder, closer. Outside, shadows moved between the trees. Silver machines with glowing blue eyes marched through the forest, scanning the ground. Their movements were slow but precise, like predators sniffing for prey. Eli's heart pounded. "We have to move," he said softly. "Now." They slipped through the narrow tunnel at the back of the cave, crawling through dirt and roots. The air was damp and cold, but they didn't stop. Behind them, the sound of the patrol grew louder. Blue light flickered through the cracks in the rock as the machines searched every corner. When they finally emerged into another part of the forest, the morning light blinded them for a moment. Eli carried Aaron on his back, his small legs trembling under the weight, but he refused to slow down. Lyra ran beside him, glancing over her shoulder. "They're too many," she gasped. Eli didn't answer. His breath came in sharp bursts. He could feel the fire of determination burning in his chest again, the same fire that had kept him alive since the first night. "Keep going," he said. "If we stop, it's over." They crossed a shallow stream, hoping the water would confuse the alien sensors. The cold bit at their feet, but it didn't matter. All that mattered was survival. Behind them, the forest erupted with sound. Metallic footsteps, energy pulses, and the sharp hiss of the aliens' strange weapons. Trees burst into flames where the shots hit. The smell of burning wood filled the air. Eli ducked behind a fallen tree, gasping for air. We need to split up, he said. Lyra shook her head quickly. No, if we split, they'll find us faster. Lyra, Eli said firmly, his voice trembling but strong. You take Aaron, follow the river north. Find somewhere safe. I'll lead them away. Tears welled in her eyes. You'll die. Eli gave her a faint smile. Maybe. But if they catch all of us, no one will live. Go. Before she could protest again, he pushed her gently away, then sprinted into the forest in the opposite direction. His small body darted between trees, branches scratching his face, lungs burning. The aliens spotted movement and turned after him, blue lights flashing through the fog. Energy blasts struck the ground near his feet, sending dirt and sparks flying. Eli didn't look back. He ran harder than he ever had before, heart pounding like thunder in his chest. Every breath hurt, but he didn't care. He had to keep them away from Lyra and Aaron. That was all that mattered. Finally, he reached a clearing near a steep cliff. He stopped, chest heaving, and looked back. The machines were closing in, their metal bodies gleaming under the sunlight. Eli looked down at the cliff. It was high, and the river roared below. He smiled faintly through the exhaustion. You'll have to catch me first, he whispered. He took one last breath and jumped. The world blurred around him. Cold water slammed into his body, stealing the air from his lungs. He sank deep before kicking hard toward the surface. When he finally broke through, gasping, he saw the cliffs above. The machine stood at the edge, searching, scanning, but he was gone. The current carried him downstream, away from danger, away from the hunt. His body ached, his vision swam, but inside him something unbroken remained. The aliens could chase him to the ends of the earth, but they would never crush his spirit. Because for the first time in history, the Empire had discovered something stronger than fear: hope. And hope, when held by a human heart, could never be captured. The river carried Eli for hours, tossing him through waves and cold currents. When he finally washed ashore, he lay still for a long time, his body trembling and lungs burning. His clothes were torn and his skin was bruised, but he was alive. The machines had lost his trail. The forest around him was quiet again. The only sound was the gentle rush of the river beside him. He stared at the sky, gray clouds drifting lazily across it. Somewhere up there, far beyond the clouds, the alien empire watched and waited. They believed the humans they took were tools, not lives. But now, Eli thought, maybe they finally understood that humans were something different, something they could never control. Eli pushed himself up and looked around. He was alone. Lyra and Aaron were far away by now. He hoped they were safe. His body hurt, but his heart burned with a fierce purpose. He had run, fought, and survived. But survival was not enough anymore. The Empire had to know what it meant to provoke humanity. As he began walking through the forest, he thought of his home, his mother's laugh, his father's voice, the night sky over Earth before the ships came. Every memory felt like a spark inside him. He knew he couldn't stop the aliens alone, but maybe, just maybe, he could start something. By evening, he reached the edge of an old human city. Buildings stood half-broken, covered in vines and dust. The aliens had left it empty after the last collection, not seeing any value in its ruins. But for Eli, it was a treasure of forgotten strength. Humans had built this once, with hands, hearts, and hope. That same power still lived inside him. He entered what used to be a factory and found broken machines, rusted pipes, and scattered tools. He smiled faintly. If they could build ships, he whispered to himself, I can build something too. For days, Eli worked. He scavenged metal, wires, and energy cells left behind by the aliens. His fingers bled, his stomach ached, but he didn't stop. Every strike of his hammer echoed through the empty halls like a heartbeat of resistance. He wasn't an engineer, not a soldier, but he was human. And humans learned fast. At night he dreamed of Earth's children, those taken to alien worlds, trapped, scared, waiting for a miracle. Maybe they thought no one would ever come for them. Maybe they had given up hope. He wanted to show them they were wrong. On the 10th day, his creation stood ready. It wasn't much. just a small launcher built from alien parts carrying a message instead of a weapon. But that message, once sent, would reach every frequency the aliens used. It was dangerous. It meant they would find him again, but Eli didn't care. He powered the device and looked at the blinking light on its side. His reflection showed in the metal, mud-streaked face, tired eyes, but a fierce smile. He pressed the button and the machine hummed to life. The signal spread through the sky, climbing past the clouds, past the atmosphere, and into space. And with it went his voice. "This is Eli from Earth," he said, his voice steady. "You took our children. You broke our homes. You thought we would stay quiet. But we are not your slaves. We are human. We fight, we endure. We remember," he paused, breathing slowly. "And we're coming for them, all of them." The signal ended, and for a moment there was silence. Eli sat beside the device, listening to the wind. He didn't know if anyone would hear his message, humans, prisoners, or even the Empire itself. But deep down he felt something had changed. A spark had been lit, and it would spread. Far above, in the alien command ships orbiting Earth, the message cut through every screen, every communication channel. The overseers froze, watching the human boy's face appear before them. His voice carried no fear, no surrender, only defiance. The hall filled with uneasy silence. One alien commander whispered in disbelief. "He's just a child," another replied. "No, he's human." And for the first time since their invasion, doubt entered the hearts of the Empire. Back on Earth, Eli watched the stars. His body was weak, but his spirit felt infinite. Somewhere out there, other children like him might have seen his message. Maybe they would fight back too. Maybe this was only the beginning. Lyra and Aaron found him days later. When they saw him sitting by the broken transmitter, smiling at the sky, Lyra ran to him and hugged him tightly. "You did it," she whispered, tears in her eyes. "They'll hear it." "They'll all hear it," Eli nodded softly. "Then it starts," he said. "No more running. No more hiding. Humanity fights back." Above them, the clouds parted and the first stars appeared. The night seemed brighter, sharper, as if the universe itself had taken notice. Eli looked up one last time and smiled. "For Earth," he whispered, and across the stars, in prisons and camps on distant worlds, human children lifted their heads as a faint signal reached them. Eli's voice. "Strong and clear, you are not alone."